Hi, I'm Mike Thompson. In this video, I'm going to cover things that Grandpa taught me. I was lucky enough to have two grandfathers that had shops, and I grew up in both of them. They both taught me a number of invaluable things that I'm passing on to my two kids, because I want to make sure that both of my boys are able to do all the man things. So let me show you things that Grandpa taught me. So the first thing I want to show you guys that I can remember at least being taught is the framing square, how to use it, how to check it, and how to fix it. So let me show you this little guy. So to check your square, you'll first make a mark down here at the base where you're checking, and you can make a full length line or just a mark at the other opposite side. And make a mark that you know that is 1. Then flip your square over, start at the same base mark, and make a second mark up here. Mark 2. Okay. You can see that those are almost in line, but not quite. Let me double check it one more time to make sure that everything is okay. I'm going to put it, adding for the width of the pencil can be kind of tricky. So that's there, and that is there. Okay, let me flip it over and put it in the same relative position here, about there. Make my mark again. And you can see those two marks are not quite on top of each other. Since mark 2 was over this way and mark 1 was over that way, that means that my square is slightly acute. Now, once he showed me how to check it, here's how you fix it. If it's acute, which means it's less than 90, what happens is it needs to expand out this way. In order to get that to happen, you're going to hit it here on the inside corner. Because when you hit it here, it's going to smush the metal a little bit, causing this local area to expand and causing your arms to open up. If it's the opposite case and your square is obtuse, it needs to come this way. So what you do is you're going to hit it back here. So let me do that. Since mine's acute, I need to hit it in this area right there. I'm going to take a little punch. I'm going to place it near the inside, but not, of course, on the corner. I don't want to deform my corner. And I'm going to smack it. I'm going to check it again. Reference that mark and that mark. It's perfectly aligned once again. Now, this board that I'm sitting on here, is it square? Well, of course, no. It's not square. It's a rectangle. But is it a square rectangle? That's what I want to know. I can't check it with this because the diagonals are too long. So, we'll switch to a tape measure. I'm going to use just one edge because if I go in the middle, I don't know exactly where I am here on the tape. So I'm going to use the edge, and I'm going to make sure to use the same edge on this side. I'm at 29 and 13/16. I'll check it this direction. I'm at 29 and 13/16. So yes, this piece is square. If it were a parallelogram, any other shape, one of these diagonals would be longer than the other, right? And you can visualize that. If these sides are tilted this way, it's going to push that corner further away. And so I would need to apply clamping pressure across this diagonal if it were something that I could move. But if it's just a square piece, obviously I'm going to need to trim it. But I can use this to then mark a new line to make one edge square to my reference edge. So that's how you can check, adjust, and then check things that are square. Okay, so I've got this piece of wood I want to rip into 4 equal pieces. I'm going to measure it 3 and 25/32. Wow. Okay. Offhand, I don't even know what 25/32 is in decimal. 25 over 32. 78125. Okay. Plus 3. 3.78125. Now, let's divide that. I think I want about 4-inch or 4 pieces. 9, 4, 5, 3, 1. So we're a little under an inch. That'll be a 32nd of some sort. 30 1/4 30 seconds. So that'd be 15/16 about. But see, it's a little bit more than that. And getting 4 of it, that's going to be tricky. So here's the trick. I want to divide this into 4 equal pieces. I can't do the math easily, and 4 is too big. So I'm going to tilt my measure to the next easy measurable integer number, or non-integer number, 6. I can easily divide 6 by 4, can't I? Because it's 1.5. So I'll make my mark at 1.5, 3, 4.5. I'll make another set of marks to parallel my first set at the other end of the board at 1.5, 3, and 4.5. And I'll simply connect the dots. And now I can set my rip fence or whatever at this some arbitrary distance. And I can get 4 equal strips without having to do any complex math by simply tilting my tape measure over to a number that's easily divisible by the number of strips I want. Another useful tip is coming right at you. Keep your pieces as long as possible for as long as possible. Let me let that sink in for just a second. Okay, if it's not obvious exactly what I meant by that, let me show you. You need a 1-inch piece of something, or how many ever inch piece of something, and you have a choice. You can either cut it out of this piece, or you can cut it out of this piece. Keep your pieces as long as possible for as long as possible means that if you only need a 1-inch piece, you cut it out of this little guy here, not this big guy. Because what you'll find, and I've made this mistake quite a few times, is that you've got this nice long piece, and then someday you'll find that you need a piece that's slightly longer than that last inch or so you cut off the last time. And now you've got to buy a whole new 20-foot stick or 10-foot stick or whatever it is. So when you have a choice between cutting something off a small piece or a long piece, always cut it off the small piece. Keep your pieces as long as possible for as long as possible. And you'll save yourself many, many more trips to the hardware store. I learned how to drill a long time ago. I see a lot of noobs do this. Whenever you're drilling a hole, get your bit ready to go, pull the trigger, drill your hole, don't stop. Keep the bit spinning, and don't put the bit in reverse when you're coming back out of your hole, okay? So let's pretend this is a hole. Here's my hole. So we're going to drill our hole. We're going to keep the trigger pulled as we back out of the hole. This makes it easier, and it also clears the chips out of the hole as you come back out. Don't put the drill in reverse. There's a chance that your chuck will actually release and the bit will get stuck in the hole, but it just doesn't make sense because that tends to then drive the chips back into the hole, especially if you didn't drill a through hole in your material. So this is something you definitely need to pass on to your kids right up front when they're first learning to drill. Keep the bit spinning. And I still occasionally struggle with Alex on this one. He wants to sometimes reverse it, but we're still working on that. But it's a super important trick. Always keep the bit spinning forward even as you're backing out of the hole after you've drilled it. Here's another one of the earliest tricks I learned. Anytime you're hammering a nail into wood, there's a risk of splitting it. You can do one of two things. You can basically drill a pilot hole, which adds an awful lot of time to the project. Option 2, of course, is to simply clip the tip off of your nail. Like so. And now you've got a blunt end. It takes a little bit more force to hammer in, of course, but because it's no longer pointed, it's not as likely to split your wood. And this is extremely helpful when you're hammering something near the end of a piece of wood. Now when it comes time to pull the nail, don't do it like this. It's too hard. Turn your hammer sideways and crank it over like this. And if you need more, go the other way. You get a lot more leverage and it's a lot easier. I guess there's another thing that I thought of. It's wrenches. Whether it be an adjustable crescent wrench, which is the brand name, or just a regular wrench. There is a certain direction that these are supposed to be used. You notice how they kind of, the handle doesn't come straight off the jaws. It always kind of leans one way or the other. Well, your wrench is supposed to lean into the direction you're turning it. So as you guys are looking at it, I'm loosening something, right? You notice how the handle is leaning into the direction that I'm turning it. So that if I were to then need to reverse the direction that I'm turning a nut, I flip the wrench over and do it the other way. So remember that the handle of the wrench, whether it be adjustable or a regular open-end wrench, box wrench, the handle should lean into the direction that you want to turn it. Well, there's a few of the things that I can remember offhand. There's a good chance this may be a multi-part series, and these are shown in no particular order, simply the order I thought of them. But I hope these tips help you guys out, and now you can pass on what I've learned from my grandpa to your kids. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Mike Thompson, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.